Hi, Pamela Ann here with Easy Messages. Messages that can help you be able to command your will with such precision. You can even put a date on it. It's really true, you really can. Have you been feeling alone, even in a crowd? Even if you're married? I know I certainly had felt that way before. You know that song that starts out with, "When I was young, I never needed anyone." Well, of course, everybody needs people in some respects, or would love to have people in their lives. But I learned at a very young age that the big people in my life were exceedingly dangerous and crushing in many respects for my soul. So I became fiercely independent. I'll do it myself. I'll take care of myself. And I ended up twisting the tables and taking care of them a lot, which is not, it's not improving things by any means, because you're supposed to be able to be a child. You're supposed to go and explore the world and figure things out and have the big people have your back, right? But the big people did not have my back, and unfortunately, they didn't even really have their backs either. They were just trying their best to struggle through, and the struggling is optional. It's optional. So it really was not true that I was alone and not requiring anyone, because I lived a divided life. There was my physical part of me that was here on this earth that people could see and they could interact with and whatnot. But I was very cautious and not allowing them to know what the other portion of me was doing. The other portion of me was accessing a quantum physics realm, reality, world. And I was being taught by gods, living gods, and shown many mighty things. And I pondered it in my heart, and I did not share it with other people. I mean, people were aware something was happening. I know in grade school they called me, with reverence, the counselor. And on up through high school, people noticed, they noticed, they noticed. Adults noticed too, but they didn't know what to do with it, so they tried to squash. And if I would speak up or anything, they tried to beat me down into silence. And so I did hold it close to the cuff, but I still kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And literally there for a while, my throat felt this. My grandmother used to call me her little songbird because I would sing so much. And I love music, and I just loved how I felt with certain music. And but even I can even remember even that when I left her home, being around her and some of the safety that she did provide me, I felt even that my throat restricted, and it was difficult for me to speak up or sing or do anything that used my voice because I was so crushed. And it's not for you to feel sorry for me or anything. It's for me to learn, for me to understand, oh, okay, these are some of the things that can happen in life with people and with me. But as I grew and stretched and developed, started developing trust, not necessarily in other people for a long time, but trust in me, to trust in me, of my worthiness, of wonderful things that were capable of coming into my life whenever I desire to allow them in, or when I'd like to have them created. And I started really, really, really growing and strengthening and stretching myself. So allow yourself to truly embrace you. Really believe in you and your abilities to grow and thrive and overcome all things, especially through the help of those divine beings who love you and adore you and cherish you and wish your highest good. So develop your unwavering trust in your abilities, as I was saying just earlier, that you have the ability to create wise and loving relationships. And you really can. You can start drawing to you the very best. But first you become the very best. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect, because we are flawed beings and we always shall remain such. It's impossible to know everything. But for you to just grow and stretch and be the best that you desire to be, that is sufficient. It really is sufficient. And it's not important to be perfect, because for one thing, people have an issue with people who think they're perfect. I mean, I can remember it was really important for me, not for people not to see my flaws, because in my home life, I mean, you get beat up one side and down the other for not even doing anything wrong. So you would try and try and try to be so perfect they could not find any reason to be cruel or unkind to you. And what ends up happening when you go out into the world, people don't trust you. They don't believe you are who you really are, because you're trying your best to be so perfect and they can't relate. So they're kind of like standoffish with that, even though you really are doing wonderful things. So just do your best, but be approachable. Be approachable. And be quick to understand and forgive and let bygones be bygones. That is different than being around toxic people or trying to blame you and beat you up for the stuff that's amiss in their lives. You can walk away from that for a season. And you can stay gone from that forever if that's what you desire. Do not feel like you have to be in a toxic, abusive relationship. I am not. I am not saying, hey, hang in there, just keep taking a few more beatings. That's not what I'm saying. So draw to you only the best relationships, the most harmonious relationships that you possibly can allow yourself to envision. Because a lot of this is, what do you believe you can have happen in your life? And you become a magnet for it to come into your life. So draw to you the very best. But you as well be that very best, so that you can have these mutually uplifting relationships, these joy-filled, happy relationships. Okay? And only allow that response and to be in people to be drawn into your world. And it's perfectly fine to be imperfect, as I said, and release the concerns of being judged by others. You can't control people's their lenses in life, of how they've grown their lenses in life because of what they've learned through their life experiences. Just like, but you can yours. From time to time, it's important that you look through what your looking glass of how you're seeing your world, and to take portions of it and shift and change it, because it may not be suiting you. It may not be what you desire. I know I definitely have done that. I've gone through and reassessed my marriage, my relationships, my jobs, my everything, my health. I continually do that, because if I don't, then that's how you get stuck. It's really important that you reassess, But as far as feeling alone like that, so utterly alone, it's important that you allow yourself to open up to receive wonderful relationships. And that's what I'm sharing in this video. And accept you more completely and identify in you, because you are approachable and highly favored by those that created you. And so is everybody else. Everyone is truly loved and cherished by those who created worlds without end. And they understand that we're just here testing things out to see what works and what doesn't work, what brings us joy and what diminishes it. So no one has to be stuck, ever. You never, ever have to be stuck. You can always grow and change and adapt and decide, okay, I've put my all in this, and I'm really liking how some of these things are turning out, and I think I'd like to stick with this. I think I really like this for the season. I really like this until I see something I would like to grow in. I'd like to get this under my belt and master this. And then after I master this, I'd like to learn and grow in another area in my life. So with that growth and going out and being in the world but not of it, you will meet wonderful people, and they are all around. They're all around. You don't have to shield yourself from everybody. You can open up the portals and let these magnificent people in that also are interested in having wonderful, harmonious relationships. And they will have great intel for you that you don't have. And they will shorten your learning curve in some of this information that they have that you don't have. And you can do the same for them. It's mutually uplifting. I have a friend who had just reached out to me yesterday, and wonderful person that has definitely shared very pivotal, important information for me and my happiness in my life. And she was reaching out and just saying, please no judgments, but I'm having some issues in these areas in my life, and I'm just wondering if other light worker type of people, or people who are from that peaceful place, are also having some issues. Are you having issues in these areas? And it was with depression and being totally overwhelmed and exhaustion type of things, those kind of things. And thankfully, when you have these great relationships, usually you're not both going through that at the same time. And there are things that she just didn't know. Is this a physical thing? Is this a spiritual thing? Is this an emotional thing? What's your take on it? And so I shared with her some pointers on what could be what she's going through, and some of it can be as simple as breath work. And I know that she does breath work, so she said she did, but I said, well, be certain that you're raising your nitric oxide. That is key. That's key if you're feeling great exhaustion. Take naps. Make sure your sleep is excellent, an excellent quality of sleep to raise you back up. And also make sure you're well hydrated, because if you have low hydration, we're mainly water. Well, we're mainly air, but then it's like we're water, and we have some other elements and stuff involved. But if we are low on our water and the fluids in our bodies and the minerals to help hold those fluids in our bodies, we can sink into depression simply because our blood pressure starts to plummet. And you just can't function without having sufficient amounts of hydration in your body. So it can be as simple as some of those things. So I just went over some points like that and a few other points. But sometimes when we're feeling depressed, a lot of times we'll go and say, well, is it my marriage? Is it the work I'm doing? Is it that person? Is it... We're looking outside of ourselves when actually it can be all within. It can be all from within. And you have the ability to shift and change that almost immediately. Almost immediately. And you don't have to reach for medications and drugs and things like that. You can use some of these other methods that do not have side effects and can be greatly supportive and helpful for you. So if you find this uplifting and supportive, do share it with others. You don't have to be all by yourself. And I don't want to be all by myself anymore. I'm really enjoying letting other people into my world and savoring them, appreciating them, be awed by them and blessed by them, and they with me. Take care. And consider subscribing below. And push the bell so you can always be included. Bye.